Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to talking about the latest Disney Pixar computer animated feature film called Onward. This fantastical magic-filled adventure comedy is certainly a crowd pleaser, and it holds up to the very high standards of its producers as well. I know personally because I just saw the movie earlier today. But regardless of the film and its contents and strengths, Onward has had to face a number of challenges with its release, which we're going to talk about today again, and expand upon further than what we went over in our first video. Firstly, to recap what we went over last time, well, basically, Onward was trying to get woke a few weeks ago. In its press tour leading up to the film's release, Onward and its makers decided it would be a good idea to advertise that the film will feature its first openly alphabet character. And as expected, it was just this one random character in a small, meaningless scene that was pretty much only put there to use as a gimmick to advertise this movie and try and pander to liberals. And between that shallow attempt being oh so apparent and also Disney being known to pull this kind of woke stuff all the time, well, needless to say, we were a bit worried about this project. And come to find out, but apparently, many were not as excited about this movie either, since it's already being considered one of the worst selling and lowest releases in all of Pixar's storied history. Now, perhaps you can attribute a good amount of that loss to the ongoing international health crisis taking place, particularly in the Far East, where movie theaters are currently closed, but also local American audiences weren't too excited about Onward either. Surely, and I'm pretty certain this getting woke advertising didn't help, and it's what made the movie go broke at box office too, albeit there were other factors contributing as well. This article from The Hollywood Reporter has more details. It's called Box Office. Onward opens to muted $40 million. The way back stalls at 8.5. And well, sure, $40 million is a ton of dough, but that's nothing compared to the budget of blockbusters like this. And it's also well below the standard and the expectation of this highly anticipated project. So let's go ahead and read on into this article a bit more and see what else happened. Family animated offering Onward opened to a muted $40 million from 4,310 theaters in North America, one of the lowest nationwide starts for the storied Pixar brand. The film, which earned an A- cinema score, follows two teenage elf brothers, voiced by Chris Pratt and Tom Holland, who embark on a quest to discover if there is still magic out there and if they can use it to bring back their late father. Dan Scanlon, who directed Monsters University, is behind the film and wrote the movie with Jason Headley and Keith Boonin. Pixar's lowest nationwide openings include 1995's Toy Story, its first release, grossing about $29.1 million. 2015's The Good Dinosaur got $39.2 million, and 1998's A Bug's Life, which first bowed in one or two theaters before breaking wide over Thanksgiving with a 3-day gross of $33.3 million, and roughly $40 million for the long holiday frame. So it looks like, aside from Pixar's first releases and The Good Dinosaur, this Onward debacle is on par with its lowest of lows. This is particularly interesting since, from what I remember, The Good Dinosaur had a somewhat similar story too. It was basically the classic Disney Pixar setup at this point. Usually one parent or both die, leaving the children stars of the movies to grow up and figure things out without them. This happens in Onward, and it happened in The Good Dinosaur, and numerous other Disney-related children's films too, like The Lion King, Tarzan, Mulan, Hunchback of Notre Dame, The Little Mermaid, Cinderella, Bambi, and this is just the beginning of a long list of these kinds of Disney animated films which prominently feature younger main characters tragically losing a parent. Now, I bring this up here more extensively because I do think this cliche is another part of the reason Onward is having trouble getting traction at the box office. Combine this played out premise with the woke advertising and the ongoing health crisis, and well, I think we can all see why this movie isn't going to fare so well going forward. Reminds me a lot of The Good Dinosaur again now too, because that was the second Pixar movie of that year, 2015, and it did markedly worse than its counterpart. Back then it was Inside Out that came out in the summer, and Good Dinosaur came out around August, I believe, later on, and the former of which was of course a big hit. Inside Out did gangbusters, but Good Dinosaur was kind of a moderate failure. And well, the problem Pixar faces this year is similar, but actually much worse if you think about it. Remember, Onward is supposed to be their first Inside Out-like hit, and it's probably intended to be the bigger release of this year like that one. The other movie coming from this studio this year is called Soul, and it has far less star power, hype, and appeal than what Onward already clearly had. So I think the way I see it now, Onward was supposed to be this year's Inside Out, but it turned out to be a Good Dinosaur, leaving the upcoming Soul to suffer an even worse fate, whatever that might be. Or who knows, Soul could could do better and it could shift things and flip-flop them. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Next, I want to shift gears myself. We've done more than enough tearing down and breaking down of this movie Onward and its flaws. Now we're going to actually discuss it a bit more favorably. As I first go over the movie in premise and summary itself a little bit more, giving you my thoughts in a brief review, and then we're going to wrap things up by talking about the news story, where this movie was actually just recently banned in 4 countries, believe it or not. More on that later, but first, let me give you a little review of the flick. I saw Onward earlier today, and I have to say I was pleasantly surprised. I had almost given up hope on this movie too, since those woke ads came out and left a bad taste in all our mouths. In fact, I even skipped seeing Onward on opening weekend, but today I saw it a few days later in an afternoon matinee, and I think it was definitely worth our time. Tom Holland and Chris Pratt, of course, do an amazing job of creating funny voices and a good buddy kind of dynamic that also carries over well into the family drama of this too. The animation is great as always from Pixar, and even I really enjoyed and appreciated the unique new world they brought us to. Basically, in this story, we're taken to a world where magic has been real for a long time, and elves and mermaids and unicorns and other fantasy creatures all live together in harmony, mostly. In fact, the movie takes place well after magic was discovered, and now all the creatures kind of gave up on it, and they're all living in this fantasy version of a pretty American looking city, looking something like Los Angeles and suburbs similar to that. Also, I would think of the movie Zootopia, which was kind of similar, but instead of having animal characters in a fictional city, this Onward film has monster characters and mystical elements and magic and quests and what have you. And aside from mentioning the strong family dynamic and how they really pull at your heartstrings with the dead father stuff, and well, put that all together, and they actually made a very funny, interesting, good looking and entertaining film. A film any fan or interested party or people with children could really enjoy. Now with that said, again, aside from the woke advertising and the played out dead parent premise, Onward really is pretty damn good. Not the best or anything either, but I did enjoy watching it. Particularly Chris Pratt, our boy. He was performing at the top of his game for the whole movie, giving us his classic sense of humor and his lovable personality too, as always. Love that guy. In fact, the only bad moment that stood out to me in the film, well, it only happened because it was a scene that the woke advertising tried to hype up too much, even though they really shouldn't have. As expected, that whole first gay character thing was just a small gimmick, and the so-called lesbian cyclops that was in the film, they were only in there for literally one scene, maybe like 2 minutes tops. Regardless, this is the pivotal point that the producers decided to use as their advertising trick, and they're obviously paying for that mistake dearly to this day, because not only does woke BS like that turn off average viewers like us, but also promoting pro-alphabet people stuff in one market and area might be helpful here, but it can prove to be detrimental in other regions of the globe. That brings us to the final part of today's story and the climax of today's video. After advertising their woke new character and releasing in the US and Europe, well, now Onward is facing new challenges as it comes out in the Middle East. Apparently 4 countries there are banning the film now because of that one gay scene that they chose to advertise too much. And as I said before, it's a very small thing that most people might not even notice, but since Disney chose to advertise and dwell on it, and well, them pointing it out cost them box office money in these countries it's now banned in. Not that it should be getting banned though. While we might laugh and welcome some failures for a corrupt and woke company like Disney here, but at the same time, of course, countries shouldn't be banning films because they have gay characters. This is obviously coming from anti-alphabet sentiments in those regions, which are clearly bigoted and wrong. So while I was against Pixar adding in this character for the wrong reasons, I'm also for them to do it if they want to do it. They have the right, and they should be free to make movies how they want, and those films should be released in any country that wants to take them. Now, of course, those countries also have the right to ban media they don't like too, but in this case, they are certainly doing so for bad and wrong reasons. An article from Forbes has more details on the banning. It's called Pixar's Onward reportedly banned by 4 countries over first openly gay character. This should be good. Let's go ahead and check it out. Pixar's Onward has been celebrated for becoming the first film in the studio's history to feature an openly gay character, voiced by openly lesbian actress Lena Waithe, but according to Deadline, the film is now facing a ban in Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia because of the film's LGBTQTUIMG representation. Onward focuses on 2 elf brothers on a quest for magic and mentions Waithe's character's sexuality only briefly, a fact that has earned it both praise and criticism in Hollywood, with critics suggesting the studio's representation of LGBTQ people is still miles behind its competitors. During a scene, the 2 lead characters voiced by actors Tom Holland and Chris Pratt have a conversation about parenting with two female police officers, at which point a purple Cyclops officer named Spectre, voiced by actress Lena Waithe, says, "It's not easy being a new parent. My girlfriend's daughter got me pulling my hair out, okay? Well, I hope it was worth it then, Disney. You had a small, insignificant wannabe woke moment which could have squeaked by without much notice if you hadn't brought so much attention to it. In fact, I think it would have went over worlds better if this scene and story came out organically later on after the fact. Then it could have been seen as the cute side note it really is, but instead, Disney championed this small bit too much and tried to make it this groundbreaking first of its kind, and now they're eating crow because of this. But also, as stated earlier, these countries banning the movie are certainly taking it too far. Banning any movie just seems fashy and old school to me, and doing so based on an alphabet-related character and scene that clashes with your backwards regressive ideology, well, that makes things far, far worse. So really, despite Disney doing their best to take the blame and screw things up, really these countries banning things are the ones who need to be chastised now. Those Middle Eastern places are also where social justice warriors should be directing most of their ire these days. For all their talk about America being racist and sexist and anti-alphabet and pro-certain races, well, they're kind of obviously ignoring the bigger issues in the world. Countries in the Middle East are banning and doing far worse to alphabet-related things right now, in our faces. But somehow the US still gets all the complaints of the leftists? Please, this just goes to show how out of touch and biased and anti-American these haters really are. In Russia, the scene was reportedly censored by changing the word girlfriend in the line to partner, as well as removing any mention of Spectre's gender. Other Middle Eastern markets are showing the film, including Bahrain, Lebanon, and Egypt, according to the report. Onward began its run on Friday in North America and topped the box office chart, making $40 million on its opening weekend. And well, again, a $40 million opening weekend is nothing to scoff at, sure, but also keep in mind that's barely a fraction of this film's budget, which could range between $100 or $200 million, depending on marketing and other factors. In the end, the points of today are many, but let's summarize them once again, as they all go together well and make a very interesting picture for this Onward story. Sure, the movie basically flopped already, especially compared to other Disney and Pixar releases, but it also made over $40 million too, and it not getting so popular can be attributed to a variety of reasons, not only its getting wokeness. But first and foremost, I would say the woke marketing is what threw things off, and then they had this cliche story and now a new premise to deal with and sell to the masses. Finally, although we hated the woke pro-alphabet scene and the promotions about it, we hated it as much as the next guy, but it is still very weak to ban the movie from your country because of something like that. Obviously, that's some regressive, antiquated, old school shit that wouldn't fly in the Western world. What do you guys think? Did Onward go broke because it got woke? Or were other factors more important? Or perhaps it all added up together and it's kind of hard to pick out which one did it in? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. Hit that like button to help support this channel, and we'll see y'all next time.